multilingual MC who's capable of speaking so many languages. You could try speaking Chinese as well. Okay, we will resume the session. Next on our list is, in our lineup, is our friend from Indonesia. And although his institution was established in 1968, it was functioning as a government advisor at the time. And that didn't change until the year 2000, when there was a major reform, a new law was passed, and a new mandate for the self-regulatory organization to perform its full role as a self-regulation mechanism for the media, especially the press. So our friend from Indonesia, Mr. Ahmad Johan, please.
Thank you, Ms. Birongrong. Ladies and gentlemen, I would tell you about the make presentation on the Indonesian Press Council and also our task on the maintain the press freedom in my country. Next. Actually, what Ms. Birongrong said is right, that the even though our press council already almost 50 years on next year, but more than half of our ages are in the repressive era, repressive years. The establishment of the Indonesian Press Council is in 1968, based on law number 11, 1996, on the basic stipulation of the press signed by President, our first President, President Sukarno. At that law, according to the Article 6, Paragraph 1, Press Council serves to accompany the government together fostering the press, while the chairman of the Press Council is held by Minister of Information. This is the key why the government seems control the Press Council. Until the new government under President Suharto, we called him as the smiling general because he always smiled, but he has a strong repressing in our country. Still, this new government maintained the Press Council through the law on number 21 on amendment to law number 11, has not changed the existence of the Press Council. It is the same, the new government, but they remain the power to control the press, including the press freedom, of course. The position and function are the same, more advisors of the government, especially the Office of Ministry of Information. Meanwhile, the Information Minister will remain as chairman of the Press Council. Next. There was a change that occurred according to law number 20 of 1982, more clearly define representation of various elements in the membership of the Press Council, only the membership. the change. Article 6, paragraph 2 of law number 21, 1982 states, members of the Press Council consist of representatives of press organization, representatives of government and community representatives, in this case are expert in the press and expert in other fields. The previous law only describes member of Press Council composed of representatives of press organization and expert in the press. But the control of the Press Council by the government is still strong, and almost nothing to change. Now, fundamental change next occurred in 1999 along with the change of power from the new order to the reform order through law number 40 1999 on the press that was promulgated on 23 September 1999 and signed by President Baharudin Yusuf Habibie. The Press Council changed into an independent press council. So this is the milestone of the Indonesian Press Council. From that time on, we in Indonesia enjoy the real freedom. Before that, we always live in a repressive situation. When I was still a new journalist, like to write the story that probably contain about the name of family of President Suharto, our owner feel afraid of that. They warned me not ever to write the similar stories like that. That's what was happened at that time. Okay, and then the Article 15, paragraph 1, still in the law number 40. The press laws state that in an effort to develop press freedom and improve the life of the national press, an independent press council is formed. Then, next. The functioning of the independent press council is no longer a government advisor, but one, protecting the press freedom, and number two, improving the life of the national press. The structural relationship between the press council and government was severe, particularly in light of the dissolution of the Ministry of Information by our third president, fourth president, President Abdul Rahman Wahid. From that time, we really have a freedom of the press. So, the seventh function that formulated for the IPC, Indonesian Press Council, is one, protect the freedom of the press from the interference of other parties. This is the most important for us. Then, assessing development of the life of the press. The third is establish and supervise the implementation of the Journalist Code of Ethics. Number four, providing consideration and seeking the settlement of public complaints on cases relating to the press coverages. The number five is develop communication between press community and government. Then facilitate press organization in drafting regulation in the press and enhancing the quality of the journalistic profession, and to do data collecting for the press company in country. We got lot enough complaint from the community. At least in a year is about 900 complaints, and we have to solve the complaints. Independent members of the Press Council, pursuant to Article 15, paragraph 3 of Law number 40, are elected democratically every 3 years, consisting of a journalist selected by journalist organizations, then also the chairman of press company chosen by the press company organization, and community leaders, expert in the field of press and or communication and other fields elected by journalist organizations and organization of the press company. So the member of the press council is really chosen by press community itself. Current member of Indonesian Press Council, my colleague, there is Pak Henry, one of our member too, from Journalists Association. He is the Secretary General of the largest Indonesian Journalists Association. Please, Pak Henry, rise up. Okay. So 3 of us are from Journalists Association. The three others are from Media Companies Association, and the rest are from community leaders. To finance the daily operation of the IPC, Indonesian Press Council, we got the budget source from the press organization, from the press company, and assistance from the state budget and other non-binding contribution. We, member of the Indonesian Press Council, got no salaries. Like it is different with other institutions like KPI, Komisi Penyiaran Indonesia, Indonesian Broadcasting Commission. They got a fixed salary monthly, so they are richer than us, and probably not happier than us, because we really enjoy the freedom that we are not dependent on the budget state. Skip on community participation, also invited to support the press freedom. Now, the new Indonesian Press Council was born out reformasi or reform era, a press process that changed the entire Indonesian political landscape from a repressive condition to openness, spanning the last 2 decades, almost 2 decades. There are a great many experiences that we have acquired in developing the post-reform era press council, either from internal or external sources. There is no longer a representative of the government in the membership of the press council as it did during the New Order period. Although the appointment of members of the press council remains through presidential decree, there is no further government intervention on the institution or membership of the Independent Press Council. The position of chairman and vice chairman of the press council is no longer included in the presidential decree, but decided by all members of elected press council in the plenary meeting. We can say that Indonesian Press Council, since since Reformation era, is no more rubber stamp like used to be. It takes a drastic change of culture to be able to envision a press institution that is completely autonomous and is truly free of influences originating from outside the press community. It can even be said that prior to the reform era, the Indonesian Press Council had the tendency of being the government's rubber stamp authority, for in its organizational structure lies a governmental element with a dominant role. The contrary, next, the post-reform press council have no governmental element in its structure and is actually distancing itself from them. However, there is no obligation for both of them to be taking different stances. Although the press council was formed with the basis of national law, it is still solidly autonomous and therefore could act as a self-regulatory body that possesses a dominant role in keeping the life of the national press in line without the need to dictate. This arrangement works owing to the lack of a government regulation to complete the national law, the law number 1999. Instead, the government entrusts the press council to devise regulations. Each of them is basically an agreement between the press community itself. In Indonesia, National Law number 40 remains the only legal product that has no government regulation accompanying it, and the government has steadfastly held this commitment to this very day. We have already 3 presidents that support, they really gave the support to press council to hold autonomous regulation. To protect their freedom, the government through the Ministry of Communication and Informatics has always put their commitment in the discourse that they had no intention whatsoever to regulate the life of the national press. They believe that the press community is able to manage itself, while also being responsible for the information produced. Considering the enormity of press freedom that is afforded by the government, the Press Council, along with the national press community, feels obligated to protect and defend that freedom by creating a truly conducive environmental for the national press. To make various rules governing the interests of the media community in order to preserve press freedom, the Press Council always involves constituents. The constituents of the Press Council are 3 journalist associations. PWI is the Indonesian Persatuan Wartawan Indonesia, Indonesian Journalist Association, and there's AJI, Asosiasi Jurnalis Independent. This is Independent Journalist Association, and IJTI, Indonesian Television Journalist Association. And 4 Association of Press Companies, SPS, Serikat Perusahaan Pers, Association of Print Media, then ATVSI and ATVLI, respectively is the local TV association and national private TV association, and PRSSNI is the radio private commercial radio association. And the public, instead of the, even though we have a member from the community leaders, we still invite them, the experts and so on, to formulate the new regulation if necessity. Altogether, they are a reflection of the media community. Thus, all decisions of the Press Council have a strong and binding base of legitimacy. This, yeah, this scheme, we involve almost of the press community and also the public. I think that's enough, and the rest of my presentation you can say that like the bogus media and journalists, this is one of the thing that we are now concerned on, because the openness since the Reformation era, that everyone can make his or her own media, and also they can publish their or make a publication company, and also the negative impact is the presence of highly promising advertising revenue and the ease of creating media business in the post-reform era, and the absence of barriers to entry into the media industry from anyone to create media products. That's sad enough. As a result, the competition becomes unfair anymore, since everyone feel they can do it. Information products are often distorted, including rampant hoaxes, and then the Press Council, together with the press community, implement a number of programs to restore the functionality and benefits of the media news. Then the existence of social media is important, but unfortunately, the situation is utilized by many parties who are not responsible for disseminating information that is not based on journalistic principles. To restore the functionality and benefits of media or news providers, revisions are made to media company. They have to ratify the mutually agreed regulation, and media crew, they have to pass the test, the competent test for the journalists, for professional journalists, I mean. Of course, we felt that Indonesian Press Council is still far from perfection, and we can apply just like, we just still 50 years, and half of them is we live in the repressive era. And we at the Indonesian Press Council are delighted to learn and absorb excellent practices in the conduct of governing bodies that are akin to a press council from various countries in the world that has far more experience. Also, we are more than ready to share our best practices and experience whenever it thought to be useful by other institutions. Also, we believe that exchanging best practice could be a turning point in the making of a better coordination and communication system that connect the Press Council globally, and even promote the formation of the Press Council-like institution in countries that currently have known. We believe and have proven that freedom and independence of the press are the ultimate prerequisites in enforcing the values of democracy. Yeah, this is the last. Media is basically just a communication tool. However, by having a medium that can infiltrate into the recesses of awareness of so many connoisseurs, the owner and our manager can drive mass opinion. Then probably we remember that media becomes a tool for power and can even become power itself. We see how Elliot Carver, played by Jonathan Pryce, becomes an ambitious figure who wants to rule the world with the media in Tomorrow Never Dies, James Bond. Thank you very much. And also I included the media landscape in Indonesia. Probably you want to know about how is the situation of Indonesian media landscape right now. Please read the rest of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ahmed. If I have to summarize your talk, I think there are 3 points: the history, the long and winding road from government advisor, I mean the Indonesian Press Council, its function as from a government advisor to a protector and advocate of press freedom, the history and the structure, which is very interesting. It takes the structure of an all-encompassing self-regulatory organization, meaning comprising media, covering all media outlets, all media platforms, print, broadcast, as well as online, right? Okay, so it bears quite a few similarities to this all-subsuming umbrella organization that our new law is proposing, except for the fact that the government doesn't respect press freedom in this country, as would be your case. And the third is very impressive to me is the attempt to authenticate, differentiate the actual, the professional media from what you call bogus media. I think we have that term in Thai we used to call สื่อเทียม or the bogus media. That would be the similar, although I mean I may differ in my personal opinion as to, because of the changing media landscape, everybody could be media. Anyway. If
I can add the points of my presentation is the presence of the Independent Press Council is to guarantee that press freedom is occurred, to avoid the practice of criminalization against the press, and because the press freedom is a luxurious thing and expensive one, we'll try hard to keep this freedom by regulating ourselves and not allow another party to regulate us. That's the point of the Indonesian Press Council.
Indeed, a lofty principle. Thank you very much. So moving on to our next door neighbor, Myanmar. Ong Yatu, please. Only 2 years in establishment, but a lot to share.
Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow journalists from Thailand, fellow press councillors, good afternoon to you all. We are the youngest, as she said. Actually, we should have been the oldest, because our country won independence in 1948, together with democracy and freedom of press and independent press since 1948. But unfortunately, it lasted only for 14 years. It completely died out in 1962 when the military seized the state power. So after hearing the presentation from my colleagues from Indonesia, I came to realize, we have a lot in common. And we were, for about half a century, under the military rule, very suppressive military rule. So we were born again. So we are just like an old man still learning to walk, So when the military seized the state power on March 2nd, 1962, there were over 40 private dailies. I think the population at the time was maybe about 10 or 12 billion. So reasonably very big. They're including 20 Myanmar dailies, 4 in English, 6 in Chinese, 9 in various Indian languages, and some in other local languages. They all were stopped by one way or another. Some were nationalized, some were scrapped completely, some were abolished. And press scrutiny board was set up, and strict pre-publication censorship was imposed. And as you know, politicians, journalists, activists, they all were put behind bars. They all were in prison. This is, I call it the death of democracy and press freedom. Next. And there was the rebirth of democracy and press freedom. That is in 2010, about 15 years after the military seizure, the present constitution was adopted in May 2008. Present constitution was adopted, but we don't think it is perfect. We are still trying to review it. And general election was held in November 2010 under this constitution, November 2010. It was relatively very free and fair, and everybody recognized the result. And a semi-military government took office in April 2011. When I said semi-military government, it means the winner was a political party comprising the former military generals. But anyway, they had retired from the army, so that's why I call semi-military. So Myanmar Press Council, we are thankful to that quasi-military government, because they allowed the Myanmar Press Council, interim press council, and myself, Vice Chairman one of Myanmar Press Council now, and our delegation member, Dr. Mu Thentin, we are the founder of the Myanmar Interim Press Council with 28 members in September 2012. And our major tasks were to draw up media law and to handle complaint and to introduce media self-regulation. So although that government wasn't perfect, we feel thankful to them, because of them we emerged. They paved the way for our emergence. And press scrutiny board was abolished. And the pre-publication censorship ended in January 2013. And private dailies were permitted again in April 2013, after 15 years. That's why we had to start from a scrap, from a new beginning. And news media law was enacted. This one was where we drafted it in cooperation with the Minister of Information. It was enacted in March 2014. Next. And the Myanmar Press Council emerged under that media law. And Myanmar Press Council was formed under the news media law as an independent body in November 2015. As an independent, completely independent. I often have to argue concerning this, because we are funded by the state. So I understand in some new democracy, even in Europe, especially in former Eastern Europe, the press councils are allowed to seek funds from the government. Although we seek funds from the state, I don't consider this the money of the government. This is the taxpayers' money. So as long as we are loyal to the taxpayer and the people, I don't feel any guilt. I'm completely conscious clear, because I never let them put a finger on my shoulder. No, I said, no, we are completely independent. And the Minister of Information, he does agree with this, because he was my predecessor. He used to be the Vice Chairman one of the Myanmar Press Council, but he was picked up by present government, the NLT government, as an information minister. So I was elected to succeed him. So we do agree that we are completely independent. Nobody can, even the ruling party or the military, nobody can influence on us. Thank you, sir. And this one, there are 24 members from various categories. According to the news media law, we can have 15 to 30 members. So I came to find out during my participation at the forums in Sri Lanka, Indonesia, and some other places, that they have only 9 or 11 members. We have 24 members, because we wanted it to be the representation is to be very wide. That's why there are representatives from Myanmar Journalists Association, Myanmar Journalists Network, Myanmar Journalists Union, Myanmar Writers Association, Myanmar Printers and Publishers Association, and Myanmar Publishers and Distributors Associations, and various mass and class organizations, even the poets, scientists, many, and nominees by President and Parliament speakers, and member of former Myanmar Press Council, Interim Press Council, just like us. Next. And major task of the present Press Council are promoting media self-regulation, improving access to information for the media. We are still struggling for this, a lot of challenges. And improving public rights to information. Because in the Constitution there is a provision that the people have the right to information, something like the freedom of expression, freedom of worship, freedom of procession. So this is also a constitutional right for us. But we still have to try harder to achieve this. And handling complaints. We have, in our about 3 years age, we have handled nearly 300 complaints. And most of all, we have been able to handle them very successfully. And the remedy is apology. Remedy is apology, simply apology. And we are very proud and very glad that we were able to help some complaints to be sorted out out of court. And promoting the capacity of the news media industry. This is a big challenge also for us. After 50 years, half a century gap. I understand there used to be some very prominent journalists about 50 years ago. Some people in the region, they had to wait and read their contribution they are writing. Now it is our turn to look at the prominent journalists outside the country. And another task of our Myanmar Press Council is planning media development projects. Because this one is related with this one, in order to promote the capacity of the news media industry. And holding workshops, seminars, forum on media-related projects. And granting awards to outstanding media workers also. This is one of our tasks. Thanks. And let's have a quick look at the present media landscape. Licenses have been issued for 35 dailies since this government came to, or since the license for the private dailies were allowed in 2013. A total of 35 dailies have been issued license, but only 13 exist now. The problem is a lack of commercial viability, because there are state-owned papers, well established, and printed in all big cities through the satellite. So how can the private dailies, years or month-old private dailies, they can't match them. So most of the commercial went to the stake sector. So they can survive. Some lasted only for a few months, some lasted for a year, then they disappeared. 13 exist now. Altogether, 11 Myanmar and 2 in English. And out of them, 6 are owned by the state, if I remember, state 3 and military and municipal authorities. Actually, they all are state. And only 7 purely private-owned papers at present, including 1 English TV. And 4 TV stations, 1 state-owned, 1 military-owned, 2 joint ventures between the Ministry of Information, the state and the private. The private means it's a very close business associate of the government. I don't want to say crony or something. This is the cross-media ownership is also a problem in our society. They own the daily, they have a radio, they have a TV, everything there. And Myanmar language services of BBC, VOA, RFA, DVV, radio and TV are also allowed. In the past, they used to be dubbed the exile media. I think DVB is quite familiar to my Thai friends because they used to be based in Chiang Mai. And they contributed a lot during our struggle for democracy. And 5 online web TV were licensed very recently. And there are, by our rough estimate, over 5,000 reporters. And before 2010, only 500, maybe less than 500. So it is tenfold. And media organizations, Myanmar Press Council, this is us, and Myanmar Journalists Association, they have about 1,400 members. I used to be one of the founding leaders of the MGA, and I was the vice president and foreign relation in church for a few years. And Myanmar Journalist Network, This one is also rather big. And Myanmar Journalists Union and Burma News International. This is the ethnic groups. There are about 60 ethnic medias. But compared to the number of the ethnic nationalities, there are 130 plus. This is very few. They are very, very important for us. They are the voice of the voiceless, I often call them, the BNI. And Myanmar Foreign Correspondents Club, I used to be the president of this club for 3 years while I was working for Reuters. And Myanmar Broadcasters Association and Myanmar Writers Association, there are some members in the MPC from this association. And Myanmar Printers and Publishers Association, NPPA. There are 2 members from NPPA. And Myanmar Publishers and Distributors Association, there are 1 member in the MPC. And current challenges to media self-regulation in our country. Lack of commercial viability for private publications, as I mentioned earlier. Most of the publications are disappearing one after another, day after day, because they can't stand. Most of the commercial went to the state sector, but the subscription, they can't live on the subscription. This is the major problem. And the government, so far as I know, they don't seem to have any plan to save, to help the private media in terms of finance. And lack of professional skills and awareness on ethical responsibility among journalists, because about 80% of the 5,000 plus journalists, they lack proper training in ethics and professional skills. And lack of media relation experience and exposure among the government departments. Most of the technocrats in all ministries, they were former military officers. Almost the same mindset, the same schooling, the same background. And honestly, I don't think they have changed their mindset. And lack of access to information from government departments. This is as a result of this one. They don't know how to deal with the media. They even thought that the media doesn't have any right to ask them, to question them. I came to find out at a workshop last year. So I said, it is their right to ask on behalf of the people. So one senior official asked me, why should they know it? So because, they have the right to know how you, the government official, manage the taxpayers' money. So you have to explain to this. I had to argue them. So, and the last one is the existence and misuse of some harsh laws and provisions. Some of these laws were enacted by the British colonizer because when they occupied our country. For example, the Official Secret Act. It is about 100 years old. But, I came to find out that this law wasn't enacted in Britain, but they just imposed this law in all their colonies, So next. Major laws influencing Myanmar media. News media law. This is this was enacted in about 3 years old. But we find it very, very weak, and it has many drawbacks. So we are reviewing it to improve it. We are reviewing this law, news media law, because it was enacted by the previous government, semi-military government. And Printing and Publishing Enterprise Act, and Brokers Law, Penal Code. Penal Code was also adopted by the British about 100 years ago. And Civil Code and Telecommunication Act. This one is very infamous these days becoming, because a total of 70 people have been taken action under this one. So I will explain it to you later about this. And Official Secret Act, about 100 years old, but it is still in existence. And state government officials often point at this law whenever we ask them, hey, there's the law, Official Secret Act. So we fail to mention the provision that in the news media law to supersede, to overrule this one, the Official Secret Act. But we are hoping to include it in the Right to Information Law, which is still underway. We are still drafting it. And another one is Unlawful Association Act. In a country which has over 130 ethnic people and several dozens of armed groups, you can imagine the impact of this law, Unlawful Association Act. There are several dozens of armed groups, rebel groups. They can be dubbed as unlawful association anytime. This is the elastic of this law is very huge. And next. Second, to go back to the section 66D of the Telecommunication Act, this one was enacted a few years ago with intent to actually to protect telecom service providers and users. But I think it is being misused because the provision of this one says, anyone who commits extorting, coercing, restraining, wrongfully defaming, disturbing, causing undue influence, or threatening to any person by using any telecommunications network. This is the social media, Facebook, and internet, shall be liable to imprisonment to 3 years or to a fine or both, to both. The problem is, whenever somebody posts something and tantamount to this one, committing this, then most of the people, especially the government departments, they tend to go straight to the court. Because this provision allows the police to take action on the FIR, on first information report. And this is non-billable offense, non-billable. And the police can put the accused, the defendant, in custody as soon as the FIR is open. So that's actually the original intention was to, they said, to give protection to the telecom service providers and users. But it is being misused. And about 70 people, including about 10 journalists, have been charged under this section. What is interesting is 10 of them were under the previous government, that is the semi-military government. And the rest 60 are under present government, the democracy government we elected in 2015 general election. And complainants are very interesting. Complainants and government departments. That is the office of the state councillor, office of the president, presidential office, and major political parties, and military, and lawmakers, and etc. Lawmakers also tend to resort to this law. Next. Concerning the military, military seems to have, military invited us 4 times, the press councillors, to help them improve their media relationship. But I honestly believe it worked, because the military now comes to us, to the press council, and we recognize this. Oh, thank you so much for giving us a chance to sort it out. And we assure them, if we can sort it out amicably, we are definitely sure it will help you improve your image among the people, among the international community. So military isn't as bad as it looks, because they listen to us. We advise them, don't go straight to the court. Don't send them the journalists behind bars. So they listen to us. They listen to us. And there are more charges under Section 66 Lumen, we are expecting. Because there are 33 million mobile phone users out of 52 million people. This may not be very high compared to other countries, but compared to the past, before 2010, it is a huge progress. Because when I first joined Reuters in 1993-94, there are only a few hundred people who had access to a mobile phone. And a mobile phone, a SIM card cost more than a motor car. You know, I remember buying a Nissan Super Sloan that is $2,200 US. I bought, but the SIM card I bought from the state-owned Myanmar Telecom, it cost, if I remember correctly, $2,700. So, you know, they just cash in on this, the state sector. So now there are 3 telecom operators, the state-owned MPT, and the Telenor and Ooredoo, Telenor from Norway, Ooredoo from Qatar, and the competition is very stiff. Anyway, the number of the mobile phone users have reached now 33 million, and 80% of them are using smartphones, and 18 million are using Facebook, social media. And you know, after 15 years of control and suppression, they tend to, they become very, very aggressive social, what you call the strict journalists, you know. And charges under 66D are expected to keep rising until and unless we can amend this one. And we have been holding a heated argument, and some are staging protests calling for amending this one. But nobody has touched a finger on this. So for the, okay, next. And you know, as you all know, ranking in the Press Freedom Index, you know, conducted by Reporters Without Frontiers, RSF, we used to rank 171st out of 175 nations in the 2009 Press Freedom Index. And last year, while I was taking part in the World Press Freedom Day in Jakarta, the ranking shot up to 131st out of 180. But frankly, I didn't get a chance to feel the change, you know, the change on the ground, Maybe on the list, on the RSF list, it has gone up. But on the ground, no, reporters, you know, they haven't felt the change, the positive changes. Now, I can't help wondering, why did we went up that high? Maybe some people went down. So we could be. No. However, Myanmar media is still struggling for self-regulation for my presentation. Please excuse me, I didn't get a chance to make my presentation, my PowerPoint more attractive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ong Latun. While you talked about your section 66, I was reminded of our section 44. Anyway, very interesting. Reminds me that in the Myanmar experience, despite major transformative changes as a result of the reform, you used to continue to be confronted with this suppression, media suppression, if you like, of the rule by law, because a lot of draconian laws are still there. Anyway, thank you very much.
So you want me to go on?
Oh, I forgot he's there. Okay, I think our MC is gone. So the president, the chairman of the National Press Council of Thailand, Mr. Chavarong, will take over from here.
Yeah, since I'm the last speakers, I will try to make it brief and make it faster so you can have more time to ask questions. Ong Latun said Myanmar is ranked 131. Do you know how Thailand ranks? 142. Yeah, we are now after Myanmar. So, but don't be surprised that you get that you feel too high. You know, you have to understand where RSF located. RSF located in France. And how many French companies are operated in your country now? Yeah, the one, especially the one with the natural gas, Total. It's the same as Cambodia, you know. Cambodia also ranked is very good. but in practical, it's not. But in Thailand, we rank very low. But believe it or not, it's still in the military government. The media here still criticize the military government every day. That's the tradition of the Thai media. Okay, let me begin with some histories of the National Press Council of Thailand. The idea of having the Press Council was start some 40 years ago. It's only start having this idea just to, every time we call for the demolishment of the Press Acts 1941, once we asked to get rid of it, the government said, yes, you have to have a press council, which is legal press council. So luckily, it's never been established, the legal press council. But in 1997, when the Constitution Drafting Assembly is drafting the new constitutions, there was a proposal to institutionalize, a legal self-regulation. Again, legal press council. So the press community here, leading by the Confederation of Thai Journalists, which is comprised of 10 journalist associations, went to negotiate with the constitution drafting committees to take this clause out, and we have to promise to them that we will set up our own self-regulation body. That is 20 years ago. Finally, we established the National Press Council of Thailand on the 4th of July, 1997. But different from Myanmar and Indonesia, we only cover newspaper and website, the website of the member, not every news website. For the broadcast media, they have the News Broadcast Council of Thailand, which was also founded in 2009 to regulate the broadcast media. And the regulation of broadcast media here is similar to some country, some Western country, like in Europe, for example, in Germany, is what they call the co-regulation, because they have to work together with the National Broadcasting and Telecommunication Commissions. Okay, now the structures of the National Press Council. Now we still have 21 members, 5 members elected among the owners of the newspaper, of the member, 5 members elected among the editors, and 4 members from beat reporter, reporter who work in the field. And then all the 14 members from the professions will nominate another 7 honorary members. But 2 out of the 7 honorary members have to be veteran journalists, or the retired, or the one who never haven't been affiliated with any media. So who can make the complaint to the National Press Council? Yeah, of course, a person or organization who is affected by the coverage of newspaper or behaviors of the individual journalists who is our members. General public who feels disturbed by the coverage of newspaper. Anyone can complain. Any press council member also can raise a complaint for an investigation of a newspaper on individual, not journalists. But it's not only the press council member, but the member of the ethics committee, which is I'll explain later on, also can raise any complaint. Next. So how does we handle the complaint? As of now, since last year, we has amended our constitution to ask all the members to establish the internal ombudsman, which is, I think, different from Sweden. Yes, internal ombudsman. So when the press council got the complaint, we have to send it to the newspaper, to the member first. So the member has 30 days. to handle the case, and you have to report back to the press council after 30 days whether you finish the case. If you want, you can extend, but another 30 days, but with the consent of the complainer. If the complainer said, okay, we allow you to extend, it's okay. But if not, the case will go to the press council. So after the case come back, it will go to the ethics committee. I think the ethics committee in our term is similar to press ombudsman in Sweden, is to handle the case before it goes to the press council. But the difference is, the ethics committee is the new structure that we just created last year with the amendment of our constitution, is not only working as, defensive task, just to waiting for the complaint, but the ethics committee also be able to work on the offensive side, which is they can raise any complaint by themselves, or look at, wherever there's a complaint about newspapers or our member, they can take it up, So if the case accept for investigation, the newspaper will be asked to defend the case, then the case will be further investigated. All the process have to be done within 120 days or 4 months. So number of complaints, you might be amazed. We have a complaint only 10 to 20 complaints per year in the last 3 years with various reasons, including public trust. Public trust means public don't trust that we can handle the case quickly enough, or can satisfy them, and the audience behavior. Audience behavior is mean that it doesn't mean that there's no complaint on the Thai media, but the complaint go on social media, on Facebook, Twitters. You can find it anywhere and every day. They never want to complain officially to us, but so what we are doing, not only to empower the ethics committee to raise their own complaint, but we are on the process of trying to give the public more access, or easiest access to complain, to access to our organization complaint process. And budget, we don't have any budget from the government, no government fund at all. We used to rely on 50% or a little bit more, 60% from the member, which is similar to Australia, Australian Press Council. But because of the problem of the newspaper industry now, and also some of the member has resigned, big member has resigned in a couple of years. So now we have only 30% funded from our member, whereas the rest is the fundraising, like what we are doing today. I mean the dinner talk, or conference, or whatever, and so no government funding. So challenge of the NPCT works, as someone here has already raised, that lack of effectiveness in self-regulation because of low cooperation from members. Why is low cooperation from member? I think it has to do with the activeness of the Thai citizen. You can see the self-regulation that has quite a success in Sweden or in Australia. There's an active citizen there. I congratulate Myanmar that you have 700 complaints, 300. So it means you go in the right way. You have active citizens. But we have active citizens only on the social media. So, but it's getting better. So members always withdraw. We have the member that withdraw when dissatisfied with our operation. There was some misunderstanding that they are resign because of they don't want to follow the verdict or the determination of the press council, but no, they resign because there was some problem with the operations, the process, and they don't satisfy with the process, so they withdraw. And now the military appoint reform council introducing the new draft law that I said earlier to set up the National Media Council, which we call the Legal Press Council, to control the self-regulation organization. Just they want to have the National Press Council, Media Council to control all the self-regulation that existing now, including the National Press Council of Thailand. So what do? So we go with the self-reform that I said earlier. Self-reform within media's regulation bodies, such as we introduce media ombudsman, we speed up the complaint handling, improve code of ethics and guideline, and increase member commitment. And we also propose to the government the counter draft law with the National Committee to promote press freedom and media standard without legal power over self-regulation. So this is what we do. Next. And this is the latest developments. The National Reform Steering Assembly passed the draft law to set up a legal National Media Council with 2 out of 15 board members from government agencies in the first 5 years. That was in the draft that they proposed to the government. The Council will have power to overrule the verdict of the existing self-regulation bodies, such as us, and impose fine if the media do not follow the Council decision. Now, draft has been sent to the government for further process, and recently we had an official meeting with the Thai Deputy Prime Minister, who said government will look at the draft carefully and ensure media participation in the drafting process. So this is what we get from the Deputy Prime Minister. So we hope that our idea to maintain the self-regulation principle will be accepted by the government, and that's why we try to ask our friends from Australia, Sweden, Myanmar, and Indonesia to prove that self-regulation is essential for the freedom of the press and for the democratic countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chawarong. I've written a book on media reform, and no other than at this time that I feel we are facing a really long and bumpy road towards reform, and actually reform has actually been halted already with the current regime. But thank you very much for your fair comment and remark. The floor is now open for any question. Kun Samsuk, please introduce yourself too, so everybody knows.
Samsuk Kasitipati from New TV. May I ask Kun Halachun about the press freedom in Myanmar? Recently, 3 Myanmar journalists were arrested while they were covering story at the border area, and they were charged on Unlawful Association Act.
Yeah.
So this kind of thing has anything to do with the press freedom in Myanmar? Thank you.
You mean the recent arrest of 3? Yeah. We look into this case, but in the journalist ethic, we said of course, they have the right to cover anything, but they have to seek permission from the local authority or central authority. In that, they fail to do so. This is a common thing, what's called a common issue in many complaints. Sometimes, some young reporters, they fail to verify, to contact the other side to verify the information. So whenever we ask, and let me give you an example, a case study. There was a plane crash, military plane crash, and an online media rushed to post something. only a few minutes, a few hours, about less than 1 hour later, then certain bodies had been found, and some passengers were found alive. And the cause of the crash was the explosion in the mid-air or something like that. So the military filed, they filed, very thankful to them. They lodged a complaint to us. Actually, they could have sent the online journalists to prison straight away. So we called them in. Hey, we have received a complaint against you about your reporting. They came. So where did you get this information? I asked them. Oh, many people were talking about this in the village. So, yes, where did you get it? So he said they had the reporters in the area of the crash. And when I asked them, did you call the military to confirm this information? Said, no, we didn't. Why? We didn't know their phone number. But actually the military had given, certain phone numbers to contact. And in another case, but they confessed that they made a mistake. So you owe them an apology. So they did agree. So it was sorted out very easily. In another case study with the military also, we called them, but nobody answered the phone. Then I told them, then you should have mentioned in the report. We called the military. If you call them 3 times, we called them 3 times, nobody answered. So I think I do recognize their right to cover, but I have to point my finger at them because for their failure to seek the approval. They should have tried to get the approval from the authority. So anyway, we intervened. We decided to intervene in this case, to step in. So we appealed to the military while they are processing the case, without saying who is right and who is wrong. We asked for their freedom, immediate freedom. But at the time, the case had been transferred to the legal department, unfortunately. But we haven't given up. We are still trying. We keep trying to help them. At least maybe when they file the appeal, we will step in. But the problem is on the other side. In the British common law, it is contempt of court. It is tantamount to contempt of court if we intervene while the court is handling the case. Thank you.
Any more question? Yes, please. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Ed Legaspi. I'm a Filipino. I'm working with the Southeast Asian Press Alliance. I would like to ask our members of the panel, no one in particular, since there are only 3 of you, there are only 3 press councils in ASEAN, and ASEAN is building a community. What can you say should be the first, the next step to promote self-regulation in ASEAN, given that there are only 3 and ASEAN, as we know, is not really discussing the media. And to Ola and Daniel, I would like to ask, does international cooperation among press councils help promote self-regulation? Thank you.
So I would like to answer on the ASEAN context first. In the past few years, the National Press Council in Thailand and the Indonesian Press Council was trying to stimulate the discussion on promoting the self-regulation in ASEAN countries. And luckily we have Myanmar become the next member of the country that has press councils. Anyway, there's some more potential member in the ASEAN country that are looking on the way of creating press council. One is Malaysia, because Malaysia Malaysian press still suffer from the press law, printing, publishing law, and the internal security law. And they want to create the press council to, similar to Thailand in the past, to replace the old law, 1941 Press Acts. But the problem now is that the government want to institutionalize the legal press council, which the journalist communities doesn't want that. So this is like in the deadlock. Another press is in Cambodia. Cambodia doesn't have really what they call the functioning press council, because even though they have an organization called National Press Council of Cambodia, they have this name of organization, but the function of this organization is like confederation of all the small press association, not really function as a press council. So there's also the issues of press council and self-regulation also been talking long times ago in Cambodia, as I remember, more than 10 years, maybe at the same as the age of the existing of SIPA. we have been talking about this, but in Cambodia, you know, there were some good things, but some bad things. Some good thing is that is better than Thailand. There's no more criminal defamation in Cambodia. There's no more criminal defamation, but why we still have it? You know, but in Cambodia, you know, they have some other law that repress the media, you know, than, you know, the criminal defamations. So for other country, I think in the Philippines, I think you know better than mine. You know, the Philippines used to have a national press council, yeah, but for some reason it doesn't function anymore. But they still have some local press council, especially in Cebu. It's very active. You know, they call People Media Council or something like that. You know, so I think yes, it's a good idea that the first three countries. I mean, we have an exchange. You know, Thailand and Indonesia, Thailand and Myanmar. We have exchange program together, and yes, we like to follow what the European is doing. They have the alliance of the independent press council in Europe, which is quite strong. You have an annual meeting. So I think I may have to ask Ahmad to clarify, you know, on the policies of the Indonesian Press Council, because we at the National Press Council of Thailand, we are ready to cooperate with any, you know, international, regional organization, and to help promote the self-regulation in ASEAN region.
For me, I think the promoting cooperation among the press councils of the existing ASEAN nations is very important. Something like the Confederation of the ASEAN Press Councils. So we three can start, you know. Of course, we have a lot of challenges. So we need to talk over our issues, our common problems, to exchange and to support each other. This is one of the main purposes of our participation here. We came here to congratulate our hosts, our friends, our brothers, and to say we are behind you. Stick it out. There is ups and downs all the time. About 10 years ago, we are at the bottom of the roller coaster, but we are slightly up. But who knows what will happen in future? All we have to do is to work together more closely. We have to promote our relationship, our cooperation. This is the only way for our survival. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you that we have to embody this kind of confederation of press council in ASEAN. Not only ASEAN, formal ASEAN, but we will involve the press council, Timor-Leste press council, and also Papua New Guinea press council. I think move better than us, average of us. It proved that the Papua New Guinea's position or rank right now is in the freedom of the press is about 50 or something. Yeah, that's better. Even Timor-Leste is a better position than Indonesia. And you know, Timor-Leste is adopted almost all of the regulation, how to self-regulating the media in Timor-Leste, and they just spoiled the rule that, like Hatsai article, what is the tempting the president or something. They erased that rule, so they can get the better promotion than Indonesia. Indonesia, the last position is about at the rank of 122, if I'm not mistaken, in the newest rank by RFS. But I think we can do more than that, because the factor like the kekerasan terhadap jurnalis apa? Yeah, the army, the army that sometimes still do excessive to the journalists, and also the police, our police. We admit that. So what we can do for the Asian region, Southeast Asia region, is altogether we make a good coordination among us, and let's embody the formal confederation of press council like this. So we can easily form the strong confederation on this. That's probably I can.
I think the question was about how about forming an organization, perhaps even a world organization. In the long run, that might be good. Right now, as you have heard earlier here, we have an organization in Europe, Alliance of Independent Press Councils of Europe, and we have had so for more than 25 years, and we meet every year, and we have very many of our members coming. Last year we had a meeting in Stockholm, and we had 100 delegates from 33 countries, not only European but also from other countries. Because this AIPCE, it's actually not an organization. We don't have any chairman or any common rules or something like that. It's a network where everyone can meet and we can discuss our experiences and help each other, and we actually do. But up till now we have not had any real need for an organization with all that comes from having an organization, chairman and board and rules and you know, whatever. We are completely satisfied with having a network because the differences between our countries, how the press ethical system are constructed, are so big. I mean, some are totally independent from the state, some have support from law, some have money from the state, and some have very, very detailed code of ethics, some have very short code of ethics, and there are so many differences, so many different cultures. So I think we are wise to work as a network. But we are an open network. All our colleagues from all over the world are welcome to participate in the work of the AIPCE. For example, you can send me an email and I see to it that you can get on our mailing list. If you're on our mailing list, you will be invited to our conferences once a year, and you can also read and participate in the many discussions that we have on press ethical matters on our mailing list. And so it's totally open. You are welcome to participate in that. Actually, today I got an email from a press council in Mongolia. Never heard of that before. They wanted to be members of our mailing list and be invited to our next conference, which will be held in Budapest in October. And as the Mongolians, also you are welcome to do so.
Do you have anything to respond, David?
Nothing much different to add. I'd strongly encourage as many press councils as possible or people interested in that area to attend the annual meeting of the AIPCE. Australia is an observer as well. We're not a European country, but I found it extremely helpful. I've been there the last few years, and you get to meet the people who are doing the same job. And although we're all structured and funded slightly differently, we have slightly different rules, a lot of the commonalities are there. We all handle complaints. We all have problems with press freedom. We all have newspapers that come in and out and don't like being criticized, and some are better than others, have a healthier culture than others. So I think there's a lot to learn from that. We've talked at the Australian Press Council to have setting up but we don't need to lead it in any way. But it would be useful to have an equivalent organization in Asia Pacific. So the ASEAN countries and as Ahmed mentioned, Papua New Guinea has a press council that's very good now, number 51 in the world, we just checked. And it's gone right up from being in the bottom just some years ago. It's a testament to a very energetic and very good chair of their commission. So there are a lot of, New Zealand is a very good one. They're actually, and it bothers me enormously, they're ahead of Australia in the World Press Freedom Index. They're 13th and we're 16th, I think. So, so there are a lot of countries in the region at various states of development that would be happy to share ideas, information, lend moral support to the extent possible, lend political support, yeah. So I think it's an excellent idea.
So indeed, I think capacity building is key to this new process of self-regulation for a lot of us. Anyway, all good things must come to an end, and I think we've already been delayed quite significantly. So I'll close the forum up here now. Thank you, Ola, David, Ahmad, and Latun, and Kunshawarong. I'll give the floor back to Dr. Witt. Thank you very much.
Well, please have a big round of applause for all the panelists as well as the competent moderator who conduct today's session in a very intelligent manner. And I think that everyone would agree that today, contribution from everyone upon the stage is really contributive to our competent enrichment for the strength of the press in the future. And I think I would like to bring all of us to the formality. I mean, since all of you are the guests, and on behalf of the National Press Council of Thailand, I would like to ask Kun Chavarong Limpatamapani to give the token of appreciation from our guests this afternoon as well. But first of all, I think we might need some workforce in order to remove the table and the chairs. Or do we do it down there? Okay, we do it down from the stage. Yep, Kun Chawarong Limpatamapani will give the token of appreciation to the four panelists as well as the moderator. First of all, I would like to invite the chairman of the Australian Press Council, Professor David Weisbrot. A big hand to Professor Weisbrot. Really contributive indeed. Well, I don't know what is it in the box, but I'm pretty sure it's press freedom.